Welcome, everyone, to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual cognitive behavior and neurolinguistic programming practitioner specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage and relationship coaching, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. In today's podcast, I'm excited to welcome a very special guest for our second episode of season 33, Miss Naomi Morad, discussing the many facets of trauma and how to heal these challenges to help individuals transform their lives to gain clarity and insight. So without further ado, as in with all of our previous episodes, I will leave it up to the guest to properly introduce herself, as no one can do a better job. Naomi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan, and thank you so much for having me here today. So, a lot of what we call anxiety, depression, or something's wrong with me is often the nervous system still carrying old experiences, old pain. And I specialize in trauma healing using brain spotting, parts work, and inner child healing. And the work I do helps people unwind the patterns that were formed during survival, during trauma, so they can feel safer in their body and more regulated and especially more connected to who they truly are.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Naomi. And as you know, a lot of people, I mean, depending exactly the type of trauma, either it's, those veterans who are coming back from the military, who have seen war, people who have childhood trauma, generational trauma, relationship trauma. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
We will not be able to have the chance to be able to delve too much into it because that will take us several decades to be able to cover.
It will, unfortunately.
Yes. So when it comes to a specific type of trauma, or when you discuss with your clients coming in and you try to help those who are dealing with such predicament, what exactly or what do you do to be able to kind of allow them to detach themselves? Now we know we have certain modalities such as EMDR, which is
Mhm.
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and some of them help go through managing those symptoms of trauma, etc. So what kind of modality do you use the most to be able to assist your clients?
So the modality, I'm glad you mentioned EMDR because one of the modalities, which I would say is my prime modality that I use, is brain spotting. And brain spotting was actually um, discovered by Dr. David Grant, who was teaching EMDR at the time in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
And as he was teaching EMDR, he came upon that technique that is called brain spotting today. And brain spotting is a gentle therapeutic technique that helps people process and release the deep emotions of past trauma. And it's based on the idea that where you look affects the way you feel. Like, for example, certain eye positions might connect to unprocessed feelings, memories stored in our brain.
Mhm.
And in brain spotting, we find that eye position that connects to the feeling and the emotion, and we stay mindful as we process, and the brain naturally begins to heal and regulate itself. And it works amazing with depression and anxiety and any kind of trauma work.
Mhm.
It's very organic, the healing.
But isn't it very similar to what we do with neurolinguistic programming?
Um, no, I would say no, because brain spotting is really we the let's put it this way. I don't know enough about neuralistic programming. From the little that I know, it's very different
Okay.
because here I don't reprogram the brain.
Mhm.
But what I do is I help the client think about it like that. When you have a conversation with someone,
Mhm.
you see that, or your clients are sitting with you in your office, and you see as they're talking, head goes in a certain direction as their eyes go up or down, and you
Yes.
see that they're thinking about what they're talking about, right? And
Hmm.
it's not because they're avoiding eye contact with you, but automatically their brain, like their eyes move to a certain point, and it helps them process what they're talking about. It helps them process their feelings and emotions. So in brain spotting, we take that and we say that when we look in certain directions, it connects directly to the stored feeling and emotion, the trauma that's sitting in our subcortex and our limbic brain.
Hmm.
And we connect that to the feeling, the felt sense, felt body sense, could be in the chest and the stomach, wherever the person feels it. And then through this connection, we basically bypass the thinking mind
Hmm.
and we start to unwind the pattern, the belief systems, the pain that is connected to what they're talking about.
Interesting. So, I mean, yeah, because I did a lot of similar, I mean, when I studied NLP, I
Hmm.
know that, they had different branch and brain spotting was something very, very similar, but it's all about mirroring. So when you see someone, for example, when you interact with an individual and they basically try to create rapport with that person and you try to analyze how they feel, how they interact with you. And yes, you're right, sometimes if they don't look to you straight in the eyes and they look on the upper left, upper bottom, right, left,
Hmm.
right, so they all have meaning. So sometimes it's for them to remember a certain memory
Right.
that
Right.
occurred like a few years back or decades back, and then they have to kind of like find in their conscious mind what compartment to be able to open to figure out exactly what was the memory about.
Right. Right.
So
Yes,
that
it's a
in
doorway
a
to
doorway. That's
those
the word.
memories.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So it's,
Definitely.
but then again, when it comes to, I mean, supposedly when a trauma occurred, Naomi, people
Hmm.
tend to forget it, to try to shove it under the rug. They don't
Right.
want to be able to bring it back because that will trigger them to feel a certain way or to delve back into depression or feeling anxiety all over again. So as a defense mechanism, usually the human have the tendency to be able to want to forget that moment in time, to be able to avoid having to go through those same feelings that they did when it actually occurred. So how sometimes do you have to face it to be able to delete it?
So the way I look at it, people come because something is bothering them, right? Because they feel nervous, they feel anxious, they feel depressed, they can't concentrate, they have relationship issues, they can't figure it out how to stay in a relationship or even enter a relationship. And it's all connected to like the problem today is basically us carrying that trauma that we have dissociated from, that we have shoved under the rug because it was too difficult to deal with at
Mhm.
the time.
Okay.
But we still carry that consciousness, those belief systems, we still carry them within us. And that's exactly what's creating the anxiety, what's creating the depression. So I like to look at it from a different angle that basically we take our pain
Mhm.
with us for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And
Yes.
when a person actually comes to therapy, there's like an inner calling to be healed for those parts that are still lost and frozen in trauma. They're crying out for help. So as we start processing with brain spotting, I also use a lot of parts work and inner child healing. So we become witness to what's happening in the body. We become witness to those younger parts that felt alone and unheard and unseen. And when we do that, healing happens and transformation happens. And it's like people get a piece of themselves back again. So
Interesting.
yeah, so even though it seems dreadful to go back, it's not like I ever will say go back to age 4 or whatever, but I can like say they will say I don't know, I just want to run away. I want to run away, and I can say, okay, when else in your life have you felt like you want to run away? And it's like it's amazing. It's like magic. People will say, "Oh, I was 4 years old. I remember." And then slowly, slowly, they start to uncover while being connected to the body and the felt body sense and the emotion. They start processing. from a subcortical level, not from their thinking mind.
Absolutely. And that reminds me actually of the slingshot principle, Naomi, where
Mm-hmm.
look at a slingshot, the best when you use basically you pull back the band
Mm-hmm.
and you create force and energy, and you have to pull it back more and more and more. And further you pull back and you release the object, it will go further and higher. So same thing,
Yeah.
life will pull you back in a way where you have to be able to create a moment of discomfort so you could analyze that moment, you can process it, and then you can move on. But if you don't pull back, you don't create this energy, this force, and this is what actually drives you to be able to grow exponentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that itself changes completely the individual. Now, when it comes to childhood trauma, so for example, the kids who have dealt with physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, and all. This is something that is done, and you cannot turn back time. You cannot jump into a DeLorean time machine and change your circumstances. So how can they accept that, or how can they just say, you know what, that was a moment in my life that I had no control over, and now I am accepting it and I'm moving on. Now it's easier said than done, but are there specific strategies that you could use that can actually alleviate that level of trauma?
Yes, I work a lot with sexual abuse victims, a
Okay.
lot.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, and just processing the trauma and processing what happened and becoming witness to those younger parts and creating like a connection again with those parts because any kind of trauma we felt very alone, isolated, and that we even leave ourselves during the trauma when dissociation happens. That means like that younger part stays completely alone
Mhm.
and often frozen with that pain of that moment,
Okay.
unable to do anything. And then we create like belief systems like I'm not good enough or I'm not lovable or I'm not worthy in order to make sense of the abuse that's happening because it must be my fault.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I have no control. It's the only way for me to feel any sense of control when I have no control. So
Abs-
as we heal those younger parts and we through brain spotting and parts work and connecting with those younger parts, we also release the belief systems that we've created during that time. So we can come back. It's like healing any other part for me. I don't, for me, there's no difference in what a person went through. Of course, there's deeper trauma and it will take longer and it will be, it will take more time, but at the end of the day, we can heal from anything.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank God to neuroplasticity and how the brain actually processes
Yes, yes.
whatever trauma. But then again, what is the certainty behind the fact that, and I have seen that before in my practice as well, when kids go through a very very severe trauma as they're young, they build certain type of personalities to be able to handle that specific trauma, and which DID, which is dissociative
Yeah.
comes in. So and more personality they have and happens at a specific time in their life where they felt really vulnerable, which they had to create this identity to be able to protect that specific time in their lives, and then they go on with those identities all through their life. It could go from 3, 4, 5 to up to like 50. It depends exactly the magnitude of the problem. So those who have DID, will
Mhm.
spotting work well for them?
Brain spotting will work definitely well for them. And I personally don't work with the ID, but I know there are some brain spotting therapists who specialize in working with people with DID. And from what I know, that because we can use with multiple brain spots in brain spotting, we can use one brain spot for the pain and the anger or the sadness, and we can use another brain spot for our true self, for our higher self, for our the part that feels worthy. So we can use different brain spots and find the connection in our body. So the same thing we can do with DID, we can find a brain spot for the different personalities that show up. And we can move from one spot to the other and help them to communicate like that, like create a
Mhm.
different awareness and connection.
Well, actually, I'm not sure if you had a chance, Naomi. Did you watch the movie with John Cusack, Identities? Which I think is actually a very, very good movie, where you have one person having 7 or 8 different identities, and he tried to narrow it down because there's always one dominant, and then
Yeah.
another just basically follows what the dominant says. Now, is there a way to be able to eliminate those identities through certain modality or treatment?
Um, Again, I'm not a specialist in DID. So, eliminate, I don't know, but I know that it can be very, very, very helpful.
Okay,
Um, Again, there are so many layers to trauma.
they
And
are.
from my experience, it just takes time. But possible, I believe everything is possible.
Well, it depends exactly how much, and I'm sure that those who come to you, they get to a point where they're extremely desperate to be able to find an answer. It's like when you go and you feel sick about something and or like pain with something, and then you go to the doctor and then they diagnose you with fibromyalgia because they have really no
Hmm.
clue where that pain is coming
Yeah.
from. This is just a general diagnosis because it's just a way for them to tell you, I have no clue what's going on. And I'm just going to put a diagnosis so I feel better about myself, about my accreditation. So that's how it works.
Yes.
But overall, is there a way where certain, I mean, I'm sure that not all modalities will work with everything. I mean, CBT, which is cognitive behavior, or
Hmm.
dialectical therapy will work with certain individuals and with not with all, EMDR with certain, etc. So again, when it comes to establishing or determining exactly what is the best modality that could work with a specific individual versus others, is just after how long do you take, Naomi, to determine if brain spotting will work or not?
Usually with brain spotting and parts work, people generally, after 4 sessions,
Mhm.
latest, really, after 4 sessions, they start to feel a shift in everything. They feel like things that they used to respond to or that used to trigger them less, or their thinking has changed, their perspective on life has changed. And with every session, it really heals and regulates another part of the nervous system.
Mhm.
Because that's really what brain spotting does, and also the parts work. It helps people regulate their nervous system and unwind the patterns that we formed and the belief systems. And it really does unwind and heal on a very, very deep level. And every time it's like we retrieve another thing from the subconscious that is being healed. So I really find it very, very effective for most things that people come with.
Interesting. So, what is it? What would be the success rate for brain spotting to those who are actually dealing with severe anger management problem?
8, 9 out of 10.
Interesting. Okay, so any of the listeners out there who are actually dealing with anger, now you know what modality would work for because when someone has road rage or like anything that kind of triggers them for whatever minute reason, sometimes it's out of their control. That's what we call anger management and not anger cure. You can
Mhm.
cure anger. I mean, anger is a part of you. It's all how about you manage. I mean, you deal with certain triggers that occur in your life and how you allow yourself to either breathe, let your brain kind of like process what's going on and not react immediately. Just take the time to say, how am I supposed to react to that? Either I just detach myself from it, or I take a few minutes, come back, and then deal with it. So that's basically what brain spotting will do. It will just let them analyze the situation at hand and then let them kind of like offer different response in terms of how they should respond to it or what actually happens.
No, it's different. It Think of it like that. Something happened, I don't know. Okay, a baby was crying in the crib and got no response from the parents. Felt helpless, and this happened again and again, and that neglect turned into anger. So every time that person feels unheard or unseen, the anger response will be triggered.
Mhm.
Now, with brain spotting and the parts work, the person will start to see and understand as they're processing. It's a model that where the therapist interferes less. I'm more guiding than interpreting,
Okay.
because the insights that the person has, it's like penny dropping. It's literally like one penny dropping after another during brain spotting. It's like having these deep insights that come out of our subcortex, out of our limbic brain, and making sense and starting to understand from a deeper level basically what triggers us. And as those triggers are being released, it's like our brain, like you spoke about the neuroplasticity, our brain makes new connections in the brain. And then next time they will have, there will be a trigger, they'll suddenly notice that, oh, I didn't even react with anger this time, because they have regulated those parts in their nervous system that were related to the neglect. I
Mm,
mean,
I see.
our
Those
the
new-
behavior, like the inherent behavior, begins to shift automatically. That's the beauty with brain spotting.
But it's not a bypass because these old neural connection are there when it comes to the anger triggers. So when it creates those new connection, does it know how to forget or kind of cut the old ones and just adapt the new ones? Because again, the brain is something that even the best scientists on this planet will never be able to really figure out.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you do a bypass, do you basically tell the brain to only use those new connection that you do?
No, I don't tell the brain anything. It's like by using those, it's something that's really difficult to explain. It's really something to experience, brain spotting.
Mhm.
It's because it's when you experience it, then you start to understand it, because it's a very like experiential like feeling, processing. It's like when the penny drops. Okay, think of a moment where you feel like aha, like an aha moment, like where you get something, you say, oh my God, now I got it. Like you get it like everywhere, you get it like on all levels, including your body, when the penny drops, when you have that aha moment. And brain spotting is very much like that. It's like we understand it on so many different levels. It's not something that is in our thinking brain. It's not something that we would understand. That's the amazing thing. Like I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
Today I worked with somebody and she was working with deep shame.
Okay.
As she was processing, now she's been a client of mine for a while.
Okay.
And as she was processing the shame, she went back to memories of her mother and then her grandmother. And it's just like it's like pictures coming up, as she processes on that brain spot. And then she suddenly went back. This is rare, but it happens sometimes to like she could see the generational trauma that from her grandparents, and when they were young, and the things that they had picked up, and the war that they had been in, and they used to live in Poland, and things that happened to them, like she felt it in her body. And as she was releasing that, she suddenly understood, and she said, oh my God, that shame is not mine and has nothing to do with me. But it came from her. Like I could have never connected the shame to all the things that she connected it to. So we fully trust the brain and the body to know to how to process and where to go. So any kind of interference from me or suggestion, maybe you should look at that or that, would have been an interference. Because
Interesting.
when we are on the right brain spot and we know how to direct the client, the rest of the work is on the client and they'll do the work on themselves and they will be more accurate than I could ever be if I would be interpreting what they're going through.
So to tell our listeners before we actually gonna um, go into the ending of this podcast, what can someone who is listening be able to determine, you know what, I think brain spotting will be the best option or best modality for me. What kind of symptoms or what kind of thing they have to experience to be able to determine if this is something they should ask for?
Depression, anxiety, PTSD, any kind of trauma, sexual abuse that they went through, physical abuse, any kind of patterns they feel stuck with. I work sometimes with chronic pain that no doctor can find the answer for. And again, like we carry our emotional wounds in our body, in our subconscious, and brain spotting is a beautiful way to really process that pain and come back to yourself.
Beautiful. So, okay, then on that note, how can people reach out to you, Naomi, to be able to get this, get the service of what you offer? Because, like I said, I'm sure that a lot of people here are dealing with something similar that you just mentioned, and this is the reason why they always come to our podcast and listen to the episode. So, if you could just give us your contact information or where they can find you, or if you have any YouTube channel so they could get more information about brain spotting.
So the easiest way to find me is through my website, which is naomimorad.com. And all the information is on there, and you can reach me. You can leave me a message through the website. And I always offer a 30-minute intro call where we just get to know each other. You can ask questions and we get to know each other and see if we're a good fit or not,
Mm.
if this is what you're looking for. And I work both virtually and in person.
Okay.
And yeah,
And you're based out of Atlanta, Georgia, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, perfect. Just because, like I said, now with Zoom, people from all over the world, they would love to be able to get some help, and sometimes they're not located exactly where you are. But on that note, Naomi, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And again, thank you sincerely for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we all appreciate your participation to this episode by helping us better understand trauma and ways to heal better and more effectively. Now, to our millions of listeners out there, we hope that you've enjoyed today's episode as much as we did. And also, we're very excited for what's ahead of season 33 in the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, featuring a lineup of incredible guests with powerful stories that will continue to uplift and inspire all of you. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Healing becomes possible when we stop treating pain as a flaw and start seeing it as a message. Trauma-informed approaches like brain spotting, inner child healing, and parts work help people gently access the root of their wounds rather than just managing the symptoms. These techniques create safety in the nervous system, allowing clarity to emerge where confusion once lived. By reconnecting with the parts of ourselves that learn to survive in silence, we begin to offer compassion instead of judgment. Insight grows as the body and mind release what they've been holding on for years. When the root cause is addressed, emotional patterns lose their grip. Self-awareness deepens, choices become clearer, and reactions soften into responses. Healing no longer feels like fighting yourself, but finally understanding yourself. So with the right support, transformation feels less like force and more like coming home. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life. Stay tuned for our next episode.